Welcome to the 1871 podcast, and it's all change at Reading FC today. So our schedule for this week on the 1871 podcast has changed as well. So on tonight's episode, this is a bonus episode for you with our reaction to today's news that Paul Ince has been sacked, with Noel Hunt taking over until the end of the season. And then on tomorrow's episode, we'll be focusing on the Mark McGee era at Reading. And then on Thursday evening, we'll bring you our preview for the Burnley game. So that's on Thursday. And Johnny and I, on that episode, will continue our countdown of our favourite Reading players. So we're coming up to the 5-1 of our favourite Reading players. So that's on Friday evening, on Thursday evening. Easy to get confused. So that's on Thursday evening. It was going to be Friday evening, but that's on Thursday evening. And then on Friday evening, it's our 106th episode, so we'll be focusing on the 106 season. So that is happening on Friday evening. And then on Sunday, it's the 40th anniversary of the announcement that Reading was going to be merged with Oxford United. So Robert Maxwell came out with that announcement 40 years ago on Sunday. So we'll be doing a special episode on Sunday, marking the 40th anniversary of the proposed merger with Oxford United, which thankfully didn't go ahead. Now, we'll be recording that episode on Friday evening. So if you can remember that far back and you'd like to join us for that episode, please get in touch. But without further ado, Johnny, let's talk about today's news that Paul Ince has been sacked and also Noel Hunt's come in as interim manager. And look, we had Matthew Batten on the podcast yesterday talking about the Preston defeat, and he said, as you have, I think Reading need a change of manager, and he also suggested Noel Hunt should come in. So I don't know if they were listening to us, but it's good news, isn't it, today?
Yeah, well, we've been saying it for a while, haven't we, about Noel Hunt coming in. If that was a change was needed when we did the episode a while back.
Yeah.
I think that's the only option that really is viable at this stage of the season. If it was earlier, yeah, you might get someone from the outside, but you need someone that knows the players in that club because, the quick turnaround of matches, you haven't got time to sit and assess the squad and do all that kind of stuff. It's literally pick up training and run with it. And I think, it's the best move that we can have at the minute. We've spoken to Noel on here and he's a positive, can-do kind of person. He loves the club. That's a win-win for us. He knows the players. Again, he knows the young players. He trusts the young players. Some of the things that we've said, that Ince hasn't done. He ticks those boxes, and it's needed. Maybe it could have been done a bit earlier, but it's done. So we now can look forward and everyone get behind him and give him the best support that we can, whatever happens. It's kind of a if you don't stay up, it's not his fault. But he's got a chance to create a bit of history and do something different for us.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, isn't it? Try something different, and they've done that. And as Matthew was saying on the episode yesterday, we need something to happen, and certainly that's happened today. And at least he's now got the rest of the week to prepare for that Burnley game. And kind of, a lot of people are sort of not really expecting us to get anything from that game, but you never know. New manager bounce, as they call it.
Yeah.
And look, this is the reason. I think in summary, I was talking to you about this earlier, wasn't I, Johnny? And it's a bit like the situation with Paul Ince, 3 points from 8 games. And it's not just that we've been unlucky. The performances haven't been right either. And I compare it to if Reading were losing a game 1-0 and they needed to find an equaliser and they don't make any substitutes. So, yeah, as you said, if we'd have carried on until the end of the season with Paul Ince, it would have been more of the same, and more of the same hasn't been working. So we would have got more of the same on the pitch.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
And I think you're absolutely right. Noel Hunt coming in is a good choice, is within the club. And I know you've been quite critical of Paul Ince, and I go along with you, Johnny, that You know, he was criticising the players. That's the last thing that they need in this situation. Noel Hunt will come in and it'll be a fresh approach, and you've seen what happened with Neil Warnock at Huddersfield.
Yeah.
So look, let's just have a recap on where Reading are in the table. So it's 3 points from 8 games, 5 games to go, and the table as it stands. So let's start with Rotherham on 45 points, Huddersfield and QPR on 43, Cardiff on 42, and then Reading on 41. They're the sort of top team in those 3 relegation places, and we think that Blackpool and Wigan are probably on their way down. So it was time to do something, and I think at least, like you said, Reading were sleepwalking to relegation. Now at least it feels like really good news today. It feels like we've got a chance of staying up now. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, like I think it's something positive. We all know it's not working, even though some people think Ince should still be in the job, which I don't get. It's desperation time, to be honest. It wasn't working, hasn't worked for a while. We can all see it's not working. Even like they're so turned on his own players. I mean, that's just not needed. Anyone's confidence is just going to be absolutely destroyed by that. And his demeanor, in post-match interviews where he's laughing and it's like, wow, this really is pretty classless, and enough's enough. And eventually, the owners, whether it's the fans, whether it's the podcast, whether it's whatever, they've seen something and gone, that's it, we need to do something. And it's a positive move. It's someone who knows the club and he breathes and fires for Reading, and whatever happened, he's doing it for the club, not for himself. Whereas with Ince, you question sometimes what his attitude's about. It's about he doesn't take the responsibility, he blames everyone else, and it's like, yeah, we know he's had a difficult time with the points deductions and what he can do, but he knew that when he took the job. And there's times when he's done well at the start of the season, but clearly since Christmas and before that, it's not been working. And just the way he talked about the games, it was almost like we're going and expecting the best we can do is a draw. We were a long way off where we are now. We could be easily saved by now, even with the deduction, with a different approach. But here we are, and we go for it from here.
And obviously there are, he's got a point about the injured players and all of that and the deduction, but you've got to work with what you've got. We haven't got Burnley's squad, we haven't got Sheffield United squad, and they've probably got injuries as well. You have to, yes, it's fair enough to point out that we've got injuries, but I think he overdid it. He kind of was always coming up with excuses. Just work with what you've got. Be as positive as you can be. And what I want to ask you, Johnny, is what do you think the immediate change will be from Noel Hunt coming in?
I think he will put positive attitude into the players. He will let them express themselves, let them be the players that they are in a system that allows that. We've got a good group of players still. We've got the youngsters that can come in and do a job. It's a chance to change what we're doing. So, we can catch teams off guard. Like, we're saying, yes, it's very predictable with Andy Carroll up front what we're doing. So now we've got an opportunity, still Carroll to play in some way or form, whatever, not disputing that, but we can play differently. We've got a bit of pace with somebody like Aziz. Young Kelvin coming off and scoring yesterday, his confidence will be up. You got a briefer, you have a young right back.
Kelvin, who's that? Johnny?
You're not going to do it again.
Okay.
But so you've got that, and you've got them to work with, and they're keen to make a point. And now Noel knows the younger players so well from working with them week in, week out, which Ince doesn't or hasn't. So that's a positive for me, that you've got raw talent that experienced championship teams aren't used to playing against. And that's the surprise element that we can use. And hopefully he's seen enough of the games to realise we don't start with the right temperament, pace, whatever, off the, going at teams from on front foot. So you'd hope that he would change that, change the mindset, believe in the players. I don't think he's going to be one that's going to be slating anyone after a game, because that's not his style as a manager or as a person. He will put the belief back into the players that have been misused. Someone like Guinness Walker, who's kind of been in and out of the team, and it's a chance for them to go, right, you've got 5 games maybe to earn yourself a contract, to earn yourself a chance in the first team squad, or loan players a chance to prove that maybe you want to come back or go somewhere else. But it's a chance. It's how you sell it to them, and you make it a positive rather than worrying about the relegation element.
Yeah, and do you think that he's got more of a connection with the players, because obviously he's worked with some of them, so he's kind of more relatable in a way to a lot of those players, isn't he? I think.
Yeah, and I think he's very down to earth. He's kind of a bit more of I think an arrogant kind of character, whereas he's very down to earth. And you're saying about the injuries, and the amount of injuries that we picked up in training. Is that a coincidence with the way that with the training methods that we were using? So we're picking up so many injuries. Yet we know we've got players that age-wise and everything else, but is that a contributing factor over the last while? So that could be a different approach in training that might help. The way that we play, and maybe because we do look at times very fatigued. I know we've got a small squad, we get that, but is there something different that Hunt can do? He studies the game very well, I believe, and with the younger players, and he sets them out to go and perform. So I think he's not going to change that just because he's in charge of the first team. I think he'll use the same ideas that's worked for him.
Yeah, and he's been a Reading player. He's been a successful Reading player,
Yeah.
of course. We know that, so he's got that connection with the club, and it just feels like he's got a chance to give the players a lift, give them a boost, give them some confidence. And I think also you've got, from what I understand, you've got Eddie Niedzwiecki, who's very experienced as a coach. Yeah. So you've got that little bit of balance as well there. And it just feels like it's a good news day for Reading after, what happened on Monday, yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. I think, that's what we needed to hear. It wasn't going to work, whether it's this game, next game, end of the season, something had to change. And then one thing that we can change is the manager. And it needed to be done. And I just don't think, Ince helps himself. You can't blame anyone else for where we are in the league. He was the one in charge, and, his decisions and comments, he's kind of backed himself into a corner almost, where if he's an intelligent guy, he could have changed what he was doing at some stage, but it was like, no, this is what I'm doing, and he kept going with it like a dog with a bone, and it's been his undoing, which that's football management for you.
And there was, I think, in the Preston game on Monday, yesterday, there was, I think it might have been Tom McIntyre. There was a bit of an argument during the game between one of the players and an Ince. It wasn't like a massive row, but there was I think Paul Ince said something to him. I think it might have been Tom McIntyre.
Tom Holmes. McIntyre was injured.
Tom Holmes, sorry, I did mean Tom Holmes. And he gave him a bit of a kind of, answered him back, really. And did that, do you think, typify the issues? Because there's frustration with the players, perhaps?
Yeah, I just don't, we said previously, I just don't think it looks a happy camp. You don't, whatever Ince says, you watch body language and you watch the players, and there's especially more so when his son was on the pitch, the backbiting and yeah, I know they're footballers, and what stays on the pitch stays, and then they sort it out, but it just doesn't look good when everything else is going wrong. And Tom Holmes is a good example, as he's still he's your early 20s. He's still very young in his career. You know, he needs to have his confidence built up, not knocked down. And that, you know, goes through the squad with the younger players. He didn't dig out Andy Carroll. Everything was AC this and AC that. You can just, you know, saying how well Jow played, and I'm like going, well, you again watching the same game as the rest of us, but then, you know, kind of had a dig at Aziz for not defending, and like you're going, why do that? You know, a young player that's, you know, got some potential, and you're trying to run him down rather than build him up, and that's the difference for me. You know, don't, you know, Noel Hunt wouldn't do that. He would go, you know, he would have, if he said something to him, he'd do it quietly as a manager. He wouldn't hang him out to dry in the media. You know, he'd build him up to say, look, yeah, you made a mistake, but, you know, this is what you're good at. Look at the positives. And I think that is literally it. You know, he is a positive person for the job. Ince is negative. And that comes across the way you talk, the way you set a team up, the way the team plays, the way the players look. You know, at times the players look absolutely scared. Yesterday was you know, they couldn't pass the ball 5 yards to each other. You know, and they're not bad players. They can't be bad players to have been playing at a high level. You know, you don't turn into a overnight. So is it down to the fact of fear, lack of confidence? You know, that you're not comfortable in the position you're playing in, that the players are scared to look for the ball when your team's struggling. You know, so that's that. You draw a line under that and go, right, you know, from Saturday, it's a new season almost. You know, it's a 5-game season. I'm in charge. This is how we're going to do it. This is how I expect you to do things. Show me what you can do and believe in them. You know, rebuild that confidence.
Yeah, and I mentioned Neil Warnock already, and you look at Huddersfield's results with the same players, and that's clearly down to the, you know, the mindset and the attitude of the players. It's the same players. It's just changed their, you know, their attitude towards the games, and they've won 3 and drawn 2 of their last 5. I'm beaten in 5, whatever that is, 11 points from 5 games. And now they look like they're going to stay up. It looks like it's between Reading, Cardiff, and QPR at the moment. Of course, that could change. There's 2 games coming up in quick succession. Do you think we'll see something different on Saturday and then next week against Luton? Do you think we'll see that immediate impact in the way that the players are playing and the way they apply themselves to the games?
I think so. You know, yeah, Burnley's going to be a tough game. You know, not expecting to win. But what you wanted to do is the players to go out there and show what they can do, not worry about the opposition. You know, we're at home. Let's look at building up the fortress at the ground again that we had for a while. You know, but don't sit back and let Burnley attack, because we're not defending well. We know that. So why set yourself up to fail? Go out and go from the kickoff, get the crowd behind you, get the confidence up, you know, attack and you know, yeah, the structure and the shape of the team, you know, however Noel sets that up, but not playing with the, you know, 5 at the back or something like that. We need to do different. That's what I'm saying. You know, we've said ready, do differently. Let's go for it. And I don't think any fan would be like, oh, why is he starting, you know, Aziz? Why is, if it's up to him to try something different, what we've done hasn't worked for 8 games, really. So
there's a curiosity, isn't there? You know, it's like now we want to see what he is going to do, and
yeah,
I think it gives everyone at the club, the players, the fans, a boost, a lift, and we are at home the next 2 games. So yes, of course, it's Burnley and Luton, 2 difficult games, especially on Saturday. But we've got that lift now. We've got this. Okay, now we've actually got a chance, because I think you summed it up really well when you said, just feels like we were sleepwalking towards relegation, and it was just more of the same. So I think we've got that chance, we've got that hope, we've got that belief that we might be able to do it now, because it's, you know, only what 2 points behind between sort of 3 or 4 teams, isn't it?
yeah.
So you mentioned Tom Ince earlier. Do you think he's played his last game for Reading?
Look, if I mean, he was touch and go apparently to be fit for any game this season. As a player, if he comes back for any of the games, brilliant. Now, because of what's happened with his dad, does that affect it? Who knows? But he's still being paid to play for Reading, for another season, I think it is. So we need all the players we can. And, on his day, maybe he might play better with his dad on his back. But we're in a position where we need everyone that is available to play whatever part they can for the rest of the season. And again, to get behind him because he has been a good player for us, a lot of the season. Again, when the team's struggling, the last amount of games he struggled, but that's the same as everyone. Now, it's the five games to do start again. We all have to forget the last 41 games and just go right. It's 5-game season. Let's try.
It's like a cup tournament now, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's five games to stay up, and it's not. We only have to do a bit better than Cardiff and QPR or one of those two teams to stay up. We only have to get 2 or 3 more points than they do.
Yeah,
because they're QPR especially. I think it's the way that Huddersfield are going, and obviously Rotherham a bit further ahead. I think it's those 3 teams. Johnny, just want to ask you, there's obviously the speculation has started about what's going to happen in the summer regarding the managerial position, because it is, it has been announced as an interim position for Noel Hunt until the end of the season. Couple of the names that have come up previously and that are, being mentioned now include Graham Murty, Mark Warburton. Do you think it's, let's focus on these next 5 games, let's not worry about that at the moment? Or have you got in your mind the type of manager that you'd like to see at Reading long term? And does that possibly include Noel Hunt?
And I think, he's got an opportunity, whether he wants to be a permanent manager at Reading. I don't know. I think he said in the podcast, one day he'd like the opportunity if it came up, maybe not as quickly as he thought this season. But he's got, he's in pole position, because if he does a good job and keeps us up, I don't think many fans would go, well, he doesn't deserve it. But I don't even, I think one thing, whatever happens, it has to be someone not like Warburton, has been around the block. We need different. We needed, whether it's a team of, and it involves Noel Hunt or another Reading connection, whether it's Graham Murty. I'm not saying yes or no, because it's not. It's 5 games, and then look at it, because it depends on what position we're in, what league we're in. But I think Mark Bowen came out and said that they've now got to look at the right manager for what the club needs. And I think, we haven't done that for a long time. It's just been going out and getting these random managers that have not really got any connection with the club. Pauno was, out of the blue. Nobody expected him. Ince was the same. Gomez before that. Clement was a kind of, let's hope for the best. No real kind of inspirational kind of leaders. We haven't had been in a good position. So I just think sometimes I think life, one day at a time. Let's just go one game at a time. And I don't think it's fair on Noel Hunt either in that respect to kind of go, well, they're talking about new managers in the summer and new, what we're going to do. Let's just deal with what we can, and what we can control at the minute is the next 5 games in our destiny. And like you say, it's about which team's going to cope with the pressure, let alone the playing side, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just think we've had a lift as a club now, including the fans. Some fans, like you said, were in favour of Paul Ince staying to the end of the season, but I think this is a positive step from the club. Mark Bowen has come out and talked about the 6-point deduction in his open letter to the fans. There does feel like a shift now of Reading, going forward in the right way, whereas it's been a bit of a shambles before. It does feel like there are kind of positive steps that are taking place. and this is one of them, because we needed a change. Like you said, that phrase, sleepwalking towards relegation, 3 points out of 8. And it was going to be more of the same if we stuck with Paul Ince. So I think it's a positive step forward, and at least now we've got a chance. And you're talking about.
So I was going to say, the fans are being listened to for a long time. We haven't had a voice. It's just this silence. I don't know if
they are or not, but it's at least it's aligned with what a lot of the fans want. So we don't know if that's had any influence on the decision, but it does feel like there's a strategy in place and there's a bit of a plan forming, and they're actually taking, Mark Bowen has got that role, and they're taking sensible decisions, because you're right, it wasn't working. So if you keep it the same, it's going to be more of the same. Yeah. So it's a positive step. And Johnny, I was just about to say that you're back on BBC Radio Berkshire tomorrow in the very early hours of the morning. I think it's about 7:30 or something, isn't it?
7:05, Brighton Bridge.
7:05. Early start. Yeah. But we've obviously got the exclusive with you, so I thought we'd better get in first and speak to you before you say it on Radio Berkshire. So we got the exclusive with you, Johnny. So thanks for that.
So look, cash in the brown envelope as usual, Mark, is it?
Yeah, what was it, a £5 as usual?
Yeah. Thanks, mate. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's becoming a bit of a regular thing, isn't it? I've been on a couple of things as well, and you've been on Radio Berkshire last week, this week, and we'll probably get invited back at the end of the season as well, the way things are going. But I don't know, someone's interested in what we're doing if we get those sort of invitations. So look,
it's about having there's some fans have an opinion, don't we? And we all have different opinions, and I think it's our club that we love to bits, and that matters to us. We might have different views, but we just want the best for Reading.
Yeah,
for all of us.
All right, we'll set your alarm early for that one, Johnny. And so it's 7:05 BBC Radio Berkshire tomorrow morning. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, a shorter episode for tonight. We just wanted to bring you a bonus episode reacting to the news, and we wish Noel Hunt the best of luck for Saturday and for the rest of the season. So good luck to you, Noel. And as you say, Johnny, been a guest on the podcast a couple of times. So really appreciate his time and wish him all the best. And just a reminder that on tomorrow's episode, we'll be focusing on the Mark McGee era at Reading in the 90s. On Thursday evening, we'll bring you our preview of the Burnley game, and Johnny and I will be counting down our favourite 5 Reading players. Then on Friday evening, it's our 106th episode, so we'll be focusing on the 106 season. And on Sunday, we'll be doing a special episode marking the 40th anniversary of the announcement of the proposed merger with Oxford United. So we'll be talking to at least 1 or 2 fans on Sunday about their memories of that day. And there's that famous picture. We've already had a few people get in touch with us. That's me in the picture over there, and all that sort of thing. So looking forward to that. But join us again on tomorrow's episode when we'll be looking at the successful Reading team from the mid-90s. So thank you, Johnny, and better go and have an early night now for your appearance on Radio Berkshire.
See my hair.